David and Wiebe Interviews and Music Business Podcast, Episode 21. Thanks again for tuning in today. I just wanted to let you know, much like in the previous episode, some of the discussions in this particular show are a little more suggestive in nature than in previous shows. So I just thought I would warn you beforehand that if you are listening with kids or your children, you may want to take a little more discretion. We are your hosts, David and Wiebe, and
Angie Robertson. Angie May Robertson, I think I started saying last week. I don't know my own name.
Yeah. So we have no extra guests here today. Mark's not with us. Does that make you sad?
That makes me sad. I love the Prairie of Prax boys.
Yeah. So what did you think of the interview?
I thought the interview was great, but I have to admit I like their show better.
Yeah, the show was definitely exciting, and I figured we should start there with today's podcast. We went to their show, what was it, last Thursday?
Last Thursday, February 3rd, I believe.
Yeah, and that was out at Broken City, and there was a few bands playing. Night Committee,
Les Joupes, and Prairie of Prax.
Right, and it was a cool little lineup, although we did miss Les Joupes.
I caught their sound check.
Yeah.
They're an awesome band, though. I really like their stuff. But I have to say, I mean, where else are you going to see a bass player, like, come to bat for you and save your glasses when you're wild punk folk rocking out?
Wait, when did this happen?
You didn't see his glasses come off when he was singing Borneo?
Oh, Mark, yeah,
yes,
of course.
That was awesome. And then I believe his name is John there, the bass player, very politely stepped in and saved his glasses from being stomped on by himself.
Yeah, I mean, I think or even Mark kind of alluded to this in the interview, but they definitely have improved a fair bit since their previous set.
Oh, yes. Definite improvement in the band.
I think they were kind of still in their beginning stages and maybe working at the kinks at that point, but it seems like they have it together.
They even had, I'm going to butcher names here. I think Eric in back on the drums singing. I was quite impressed. Everybody was singing. Harmonies were great.
Yep. So all in all,
it was tight.
Yeah, you betcha.
I love those guys. They're a blast to hang out with before the show too.
Oh yeah, they were definitely enthusiastic.
Oh yeah.
To put it mildly, I guess.
Lovely group of guys.
Both before and after the show, I think they were pretty hyper.
Oh yes.
But yeah, all in all, they're just like a fun band, right? It's a fun show to go and see, and props go out to Mark and the boys for sure.
And I have to say, like, really great guys for willing to come in for Boob Rock last year and all ready to go this year.
Yep.
I have to say, like, they are some of our biggest supporters.
Yeah, they definitely seem to have their head together in that facet. I mean, they're definitely seem like they're willing to pitch in and play where needed, right?
Oh yeah.
So cool. And Night Committee was also a pretty cool band to watch.
Or were you watching their bass player?
Probably.
She was cute.
Definitely.
I'm making David blush. You can't see this from the podcast.
Yeah, but I kind of knew it was coming. So, anyway, well, I don't even know how you would describe their style. It's kind of 60s.
More on the punk side, for sure.
Yeah, it definitely was sort of reminiscent for me of some 60s bands. A little bit of psychedelia, a bit of Spanish. I don't know. I don't know what I'm picking up on there.
I really do think their lead singer made the band.
Yeah. Definitely, and the lead guitar sound sort of had a way of bringing out what was missing, as it were, and I think that's what a lead guitar is supposed to do. Is kinda,
yeah.
And depending on if you play blues to that, there's no reason why that couldn't work. But then they would have a completely different sound than what it is they had going.
And while we're sitting here talking about the musicians in a band, you know, I'm starting to really think about drummers, because it's a conversation that's kind of kicked around with a couple different bands I've talked to in the last little bit, is how hard it is to find a drummer that you don't notice for overplaying and don't notice for being totally lost. And I think they get so underrated, so underappreciated. When you have a good drummer, it's so easy to forget you have a good drummer.
No, I gotta say for Night Committee there, they had a very tight rhythm section.
Oh yeah.
That makes all the difference.
Had nothing to do with the bass player's looks.
Could have helped, I guess.
I'm mean. I'm gonna get smacked here afterwards.
The sound, hey, don't make me out to be something I'm not. Yeah, the sound there at Broken City actually really good, considering, I mean, I don't think that would be the perfect space for, I could be wrong, could be mistaken, but I don't think that's the perfect space for sound.
I was very impressed with their sound, man.
Still sounded so good.
And that's another thing that's been really, really killing gigs for me lately, is going out and you're, I mean, forgive me, even when you guys were at the house there, really up until that one adjustment was made, it was just driving me nuts. I hate going to a live show, nobody there to run sound, nobody checking on it even mid-set. I mean, it's kind of painful. It does the audience a disservice, and it really does a disservice to the musicians.
Yeah, that's true. At least at the house there, we had someone watching it at all times. It doesn't mean that they were doing anything, but...
It's not the easiest room to figure out always either.
No, the house is kind of a weird one because it's elongated, right? So it's not a big room, it's just a long room.
Yeah. But yeah, no, that's really been killing gigs for me lately, is the sound. It just drives me nuts because it's just such a crime to me.
Yeah, it does make such a big difference. I remember playing probably Earth Day, Balzac. I think that would have been in 2008. So it was this weird, freaky snowstorm, and we're driving out to Balzac on Deerfoot or Highway 2, and it was Elijah, Emily, and myself, and man, but we still managed to get there on time and get up there and perform. But the sound system that we had rented, and I think it was from the Airdrie MCC, and you know, it's not their fault, but it just didn't sound very good in that room. It was 2 PV speakers, and they were right on the stage, so they didn't have any stands or anything that could have contributed to it, but
definitely
seemed like there was no high end coming through. And yeah, I mean, and this is the kind of performance where, you know, Joel Camps was performing too, so it's not like it was all small names.
Well, and tonight we went and saw late night hotels, and good lord. It was a miracle you could hear them on those speakers with their drummer there. I was just a little horrified that that's all they had, and then you look over at their DJ gear and they've got bass bins. For crying out loud, you have some, you know, better speakers in the house. What are you doing? Well, shooting the band in the foot there.
We practically just came from Amsterdam Rhino, but yeah, I mean, we could hear what they were singing, but we could not hear what they were saying, which was kind of funny because they would talk in between sets and you'd be like, huh?
I couldn't even really tell what was going on. I could hear them singing, but it was like blah, blah.
Yeah.
And which is just such a disservice to the band, because you listen to some of their recordings and it's really, really great band.
You know what? I mean, definitely they picked it up in the last set there. The last 3 songs I loved a lot, and which isn't to say I didn't like any of their other parts of the set, but
yeah,
you know, like you said, the sound sort of did them a disservice for sure, and I'm pretty sure it would have alienated the audience to some degree because they couldn't hear clearly what was being said.
I was having a hard time with that.
Yeah, for sure.
But not really the band's fault. They supposedly had a sound guy who turned in every so often, adjusted a guitar halfway through.
Apparently. I don't think we ever saw him while we were there, but...
I heard the guitar adjusted through the system and went, oh, well, there is a sound guy on board, but dang, you know, like, this is bad.
What both of these shows did have in common was the fact that they started pretty well on time and finished on time as well, which has been a rarity for shows that I've been to recently.
Definitely in Calgary too.
Yeah, but I think with, again, the Broken City one, it was a Thursday night, so if they weren't on the ball with that, then you'd be losing your audience, because I don't know how it is. Well, actually, I kind of do, but I don't know how it is out east in Canada. But here in Calgary, people do tend to go to bed pretty early.
I don't know about you, man, but I got a hot date with a good-looking pillow.
Oh, gosh. You went there.
I had to.
Let's just say that there isn't quite the night scene. I mean, there's still people clubbing and dancing and partying it up on a Tuesday night, but...
Well, and I think that's what was kind of the deal with Amsterdam Rhino, keeping them on time tonight, is like they were very concerned about switching the bar over to a DJ at 10.
Yeah.
And, I have nothing against different styles of music. I have nothing against DJs. It's kind of kills the music, the live music sound. I realize there's more that goes into DJs than just pushing play, but, it kind of kicked everybody out of the bar who was interested in live music. All of a sudden, there were people lining up to get in just to dance. And it's kind of a shame because there's some great talent in this city.
Like, not in so many words, but it's sort of like saying we put clubbing and that kind of thing before live music, whereas I'm sort of used to the live music being the party, not the clubbing. The clubbing is kind of like whatever.
Yeah, not my scene. Not into crowds, but that's me.
I guess that's just me too. So those are the shows that we've been to recently, and they were pretty enjoyable. So, updates.
I have 2 shows coming up.
Oh, you have some shows coming up.
I have... what's next weekend? Is the 16th, I think?
Yes.
14th is Monday.
Friday.
16th is Wednesday. 17th. So the 18th, 19th, I think it is there.
Yes, that would be Friday,
Let me
Saturday.
get my dates wrong. We are doing Porgy and Bess, the opera, down at the Philharmonic.
Okay.
Very controversial play. Written about, or in the time, it was written in what was called the Negro dialect. Controversial because Gershwin and Isa Gershwin, his wife, did I get her name right, wrote the opera from the point of view of blacks at the time, considered very controversial because it was written by a couple of white people. Even some of the original performers weren't really into doing this because they didn't want to be stereotyped. So there's a bit of history to be learned, and I think this is kind of an interesting production to be doing shortly after the whole Dire Straits thing. Can't use the N-word and Huckleberry Finn, and I think I went off on this in a podcast already.
Yeah, we definitely talked about this at length.
But, it's kind of an interesting thing to be doing after we've had that dialogue within the country very recently. Obviously, Our program was set before then. Really catchy, high jazz. Kind of interesting to be doing high jazz with a bunch of classical musicians, but it is considered part of the regular opera repertoire. And then on the 25th and 26th, we will be performing Prometheus. It is the Canadian premiere. That is a piece I wasn't enjoying as much. I am starting to find some places where it's a little more rewarding.
Well, that's good.
There are places where the music's still not rewarding me, but, the places that do, I'll take it.
Well, I will try to get these details in the show notes, and when I say try, I do mean try, because my editing schedule has been a little more hectic with all the shows we've been doing recently. Of course, that's the whole bi-weekly schedule thing, and once we get into the groove of things, but...
I can give you our website.
Yep.
www.cpo-live.com.
Perfect.
If you are under the age of 29, between 12 and 29, click that See Possibilities link and you can get a ticket for $12 and one for your date for $12. Your date does not need to be between 12 and 29, so if you want to bring your mom, bring your mom.
There you go. And that said, we do want you to visit the website because the blog is being updated and will continually be updated with photos, videos, and other things. I've also been doing a little bit of writing and posting. I think I already mentioned the Yanni post that I did, and more recently I talked about the fact that I called in for the CD Baby DIY Musicians podcast, left a comment. It was used on their 105th episode, I believe. So I probably sound like a complete doofus or an idiot, but if you want to go and listen, you can definitely hear what I had to say about one of their discussions.
We're also on Facebook.
Absolutely. We are on Twitter and Facebook. Actually, you probably have your own Twitter account, don't you, Angie?
I do have a Twitter account. I neglect it. I am a bad kid.
I haven't seen you post all that much, but mine is at DAW Music with a capital D. I don't think it matters, but I'll throw that out there in case you want to follow me. And I will thank all those who have been following me recently, because it seems like there have been significantly more. The odd thing is, I probably haven't made any mention of video games recently, and people are still... people that are still involved in video games in a significant way have been the people following me. So it seems like it's either people in music or people in video games that have been following more and more. But that's...
Merge the two. Video game music rocks.
Exactly. I think that's... If the message is coming across loud and clear, that I should perhaps be getting into more... video game composing and things of that nature. But
Video Games Live is coming to Calgary in June.
Yes. Hopefully we can make a point of getting out to that. Would be cool to see again, and would also be a catalyst perhaps for interviewing Tommy again if we can.
Fingers crossed that I get to actually be involved with this one again.
Yeah, that would be cool.
They are performing at Jack Singer. No word on what orchestra they are using. Fingers crossed. I'd love to see the CPO involved again. I have to say, most of the musicians love working with those guys.
And it would be cool to talk to Jack, who I have not talked to yet. I think I tried to get an interview at one point, but I couldn't get in touch with him, so...
Really great conductor. Great conductor.
Anyway, we do highly recommend Video Games Live, regardless of our own biases.
Merge the music!
It really is a terrific experience, and we encourage skeptics to go out too, because actually even when I went to Video Games Live that time, probably 3 years ago now, or more, there were skeptics there. There were critics there going, kids playing video games, this is so ridiculous.
There were skeptics on stage who were so sold.
Yeah.
I mean, there's nothing like a gal sitting down to play a concerto and having guys jumping up on their seats and going, woo! I mean, come on. You guys made us feel like rock stars.
And I think people's minds were changed because of the show, for sure.
Oh, for sure.
I think people seem to think that this is still some kind of underground niche culture, that there's these really odd people who dress up like video game characters. And
there were some of those.
There were definitely some of those, but you know what? It's not like just this underground small culture anymore. It's definitely a growth market. Video games are it's only getting bigger at this point, so...
Definitely. I mean, we keep talking about ways to make music profitable. I hate to use the term, but make a living off music. And definitely that's a market where a number of bands, a number of composers, people are finding they can actually pay the bills doing video game music without compromising their art. You have to admit there's some incredible, exciting things going on as far as video game music. Exactly, and for many of us that is the dream, right, to make a living at this. So we definitely do encourage looking into these growth markets. We encourage looking into licensing, and I think getting your music in movies and TV is still quite viable as well. But well, and to be honest, any style of music you play, there's a video game for that. Pretty much. I mean, it seemed to be kind of a niche thing at first, but ever since, the original Tony Hawk Pro Skater with the Dead Kennedys and Primus and just this eclectic mix, which was really, really good. I know Splitting Atom had a recent breakout with Need for Speed. Right, there you go. Need for Speed. It's always had a very cool soundtrack, Gran Turismo, So, and more pop, I shouldn't say pop music, but more and more music is getting used on video games. I think Endless Sporadic was in Tony Hawk, I don't know which one. It could have been American Wasteland. And these are guys who are virtually unknown if it weren't for that game. And I don't know that at that point, I'm pretty sure they hadn't put out more than one track ever, on MySpace. I could be wrong on this, but I don't think they even had an official release or representation at that point. So that just goes to show you that there are opportunities out there for that kind of thing. Oh, for sure, yeah. If you have any questions or comments regarding this podcast, send an email to comments
at daw-music.com.
So we do have some updates to follow up on, or some things to follow up on from a previous show.
What are we updating? I'm sorry.
Avis.
Avis! Oh man. So Avis called me again.
Mm-hmm.
Asking if I was liking the new corporate policy after I had canceled. They don't seem to have their stuff together. That is 2 people who've tried to fix the errors of 2 other people, so you've got to give them props for that. But they don't have their poop in a group, so I'm pretty much ready to be done with them. Apparently, they don't write checks to specific employees, it's to the company, so it's a little less corrupt sounding, but still, I'll leave it. Take it or leave it, I'll leave it. I'm going with, enterprise, dollar, driving force, all much easier to deal with, more straightforward. Avis and budget. Sorry, guys. You tried. You didn't win me over.
No, I am still a fan of Enterprise at this point, especially based on what you're saying as well, and how they treated me, which was pretty good. So, yeah, I mean, it seems to be a bit of a problem in this city, just finding proper service and care of customers.
Well, and part of the problem here is, I'm dealing with a call center in Texas.
Oh, well, that's...
They don't even know where the location is. They don't know the people I've been dealing with. Honestly, outsourcing, I'm sure it's great for business, quote-unquote business.
I guess.
Good for the bottom line, not good for the customer. If it's not good for the customer, eventually it will affect your bottom line and will go elsewhere. I don't know where Enterprise's call center is. I know most of these guys use call centers. However, there's got to be a point when you're willing to transfer me back to the branch.
When I think of outsourcing, this podcast, for example, I wouldn't get myself a body double or a voice double, as it were. If I were to outsource something, I would outsource, transcribing the podcast, because that's something that's worthwhile to me. But it would, for me, to kind of dedicate that much time to it would be difficult. So...
Outsource your co-host. That girl's crazy.
Yeah, I'll get someone from Texas or something to come on and Skype and
Hi, y'all.
That would be the weirdest thing ever.
Oh.
Yeah.
I apologize if I've offended any Texans with my really crappy southern accent.
No, we love you down there, and we love all our friends across the border.
Oh, I have a ton of friends across the border.
Yeah.
And yeah, they would understand if I hi-yelled.
Okay, good. Any other remarks regarding customer service?
Honestly, I think, and it was a discussion you and I had today coming home from watching Late Night, was, honestly, I think a lot of it has to do with the greater culture of this city. The small town feel is gone.
Yeah.
People have no courtesy with each other. There's so much anger. People are just boiling underneath. And, people can't let people in driving. I got honked at for letting somebody in traffic yesterday. Come on, grow up. It's not all about you.
No kidding.
The universe seems to revolve around us, and we've kind of set it up that way. Community, we need it. This city is starving for community. I've been learning a lot about co-communities in Calgary and cooperative housing, and it's a step in the right direction. But we need to find our heart again. And, Calgary's a great place. I think people in general are altruistic. But, man, it's hurting lately.
Here in the city, I mean, you see people... This happens to me all the time, because I drive on the Deerfoot, which is our main artery. There isn't much else if you want to go north-south. And I'll be in the far left lane, which is the fast lane. But the reason I'm in that lane is because for some reason there's people going 70 or 80 in the other 2 lanes. So I just want to go speed limit. I'm not looking to speed or cause any trouble or stunt or anything. And pretty soon, within minutes, there's someone directly behind me, just riding my tail, won't let me off. I can't get into the right lane. I want to. I don't want to ruin their day, but you know.
Is it
You
really
just-
though a redneck thing? Or
No, no,
or a lot of the me culture that we've got going on in North America? Because you will find people who are seething under the surface in Toronto. You will find people, even in hippie Vancouver. You gotta love Vancouver. But I think a lot of it is, I think people there's a disconnect.
Yeah.
There's a huge disconnect. I almost want to say lonely too, but
Yeah.
people are hurting and we're taking it out on each other. And there's just, my heart would be for the community to come back to Calgary, because I really think it's been lacking.
That wasn't really a reference to a redneck thing, just to be clear.
No,
But,
I'm not saying that, but I would say I think we've caught the big city mentality and that self-important, and come on, Calgary. We're much more laid back than that. We always have been. I just wish we could find that again.
I think we just need to make the appropriate adjustments.
Common courtesy is such a basic thing, and I'll admit I have my days when I'm short. But let's be honest, just a little, help that lady who's trying to push her stroller through the 2-foot snowbank. I watched 5 business guys the other day just staring at her.
Right.
Like it was something interesting. Take 2 seconds out of your day to go pick up the other end of the stroller, help her over. Just a little courtesy. And, it's something that musicians really need to remember, too. Recent discussion on a musician who worked a gig that I was involved with was that he was pretty arrogant and rude to everybody.
Right.
You're not going to get gigs if you're doing that. Just remember, this is a community. This is a great city. Try to promote that. Try to have that attitude.
And I've heard stories about bands that have done little extra things that got them remembered. I mean, you could be the greatest band on the planet, pull off a great gig at the bar, and still not be remembered. Not because you didn't play good, not because you weren't good as a band, because you didn't do anything extra.
Or be remembered for the wrong things. Those guys were jerks to the bartender, they were jerks to the
Right.
waitress. I don't care how good you are. If your staff's going to walk out because a band is playing there, they're not going to have you back.
I mean, I've heard of examples of bands who, if there was snow, they would shovel around the bar or the venue, or if there was a patch of grass that they mowed it or cut it, or just little things like that set them up to be remembered and to have a good reputation with that particular venue. Whatever ideas you can come up with, but
Oh, yeah. And that's taking pride, right?
yeah, absolutely.
Take pride in your city. Take pride in your band. Take pride in your orchestra.
Absolutely. Well, I can't wait to get out and play again. It's been a little while. I guess it's not since the Not a Number Records showcase, but I'm sure there'll be more gigs coming up sometimes. This is just kind of the early year slump, as it were.
And we should also mention Prairie of Prax is playing the Palomino on February 26th.
That's right.
At 10 p.m., I will be rushing straight from the Jack Singer Concert Hall to the Palomino to catch their show.
Right. And I think Mark even mentioned that in the interview, or actually could even be in the segment that you're about to hear.
Wicked.
Awesome. Okay, well, on that note, why don't we move on, because that was kind of a good segue on to part 2 of Mark David Stewart's interview, and we'll be back. Visit us online at www.daw-music.com/daw-podcast. And don't forget to spread the word. Tell your friends about this podcast.
We should also get up, sorry, it just crossed my mind. We should also get on the website at least your show at the Palomino.
Oh yeah,
With there.
and the 26th of February, which is a Saturday,
Yep.
we're playing a show at the Palomino with a very good band, a very good Calgary band called Dead Horse, and then there's a band from Moose Jaw that I can't remember the name of, and a band from Lethbridge. So we got some well-represented Prairie contingency, and it's a 4-band show, and it's a Saturday night, and I think it's going to be a gas.
Right.
Palomino's certainly been trying to curate some different good sounding stuff lately. So.
I'm really curious because I don't know. I've heard Dead Horse's record, but I haven't heard the other 2 bands at all. I don't know anything about them. One's called Brain Sauce, I think, which I like that name, and the other one is called Toques and Beards. Does that sound right?
Nice.
Yeah. So I think that's right. So
Cool.
yeah, it's gonna be fun.
And I liked what you said earlier about having a story as an artist and a musician. I mean, certainly I've had various people on the podcast. So the same thing rings true. Like, I know they're good people, but sometimes the interviews don't always pan out exactly as I'd hope, or quite as stimulating as I hope. Majority of them have been good, though. I mean, I can't complain about any of them.
Oh,
But
come on, who sucked? No, I'm kidding.
There was this chick you had on the podcast, kept talking about boobs. Really profane girl.
I can't imagine who would do that.
no, that's different.
I think there's a sort of a stereotype about singer-songwriters.
yeah.
And this sort of soul-bearing confessional thing. And if I did that, honest to God, it would just be really boring. Like, I don't, you know, I drive a minivan, I got kids, I'm family, you know, live in the suburbs and all that stuff.
Right.
I wouldn't buy that if someone else did it. Like, it wouldn't be that interesting. But I like making stuff up, you know. It's just like, okay, here's a character, here's a situation. You know, it's almost like writing fiction. But you have to do it in like 3 to 5 minutes, and you have to make it rhyme, and it has to be a tune, you know. So there's a challenge and an objective, right?
Well, actually, now that you mentioned that, what do you think of the whole Dire Straits thing? I mean,
I think it's ridiculous, honestly.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, for one thing, that's a quote in the song. He's. I mean, the song's about a bunch of guys sitting around an appliance store, making fun of guys like Mark Knopfler on MTV. You know,
Right.
and to take it out of context, I mean, they've released a version of Huckleberry Finn that takes the N-word out. Have you heard that?
yeah, I heard that.
And it just seems kind of, it's like people want to focus on things that they can change rather than the big pictures that are harder and take more time and longer things. You know, we can chisel away at these little superficial things. And I guess it does matter to a certain extent, but I think they kind of lose sight of the big picture. What do you guys think about that? I'm curious. Like,
Yeah, here's what I think.
okay,
If radios didn't have that song on such heavy rotation, it probably wouldn't have even come up as an issue. Like you just said, you got to put it in its context. The song came out how many years ago now? 30, 40?
I don't know if it's that long. It's
Well, it was in the 80s,
25.
right? Yeah. So that's probably, that'd be close to 30 years. But yeah, I mean, radio stations need more varied playlists if they actually played more independent and Canadian content like they're supposed to. At least,
Well, that's the whole thing. I mean, what's the point of having classic rock radio if you're just going to play the same songs over and over and over again?
and untold royalties, I'm sure. I mean, these musicians are used to seeing these checks come in, probably, but
It's probably actually sold some records for them, you know. Just
I should
controversy
think.
And just so it's probably, and I guess for maybe it's a good thing for you know, a little
For Dire Straits.
controversy. But
Yeah.
I think it's kind of a tempest in a teapot, you know.
Yeah.
Sort of. But I mean, do you think that they should censor the song, or do you think they should, if they're going to play it, do you think they should mess with it?
I don't see why there would be any need to. If you don't like the song, you can turn it off. There's always been that choice.
Yeah. They don't want you to have that choice, though. They don't want you to turn it off.
Well, it's the truth. It's the truth. You know, any media, you can turn it off in your life, whether it be TV, radio, and you don't have to subscribe to those newspapers, no matter how many times they call.
Yeah, that's true. And I don't.
I'm so opinionated about this.
What do you think? What do you think? Angie's waiting to say
You
her-
guy, like, forgive me. If you are going to ban a word like that, I don't know if I'm allowed to use it on the podcast.
Let's not, just for...
I keep using all the bad words. If you're going to ban a word, it's like the B word. Forgive me. I used to work in dog shows, showing dogs. The first time an 8-year-old girl walked up and to tell me about her bee, I kind of freaked out. But you know, that's the correct term to be using. I think we need to understand that. But I think we can't pull context away.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
pull
we
context
can't.
away. You can't talk about racism. You can't talk about homophobia. There's so many topics that you have to ignore. You have to ignore history. You probably can't even talk about the Nazis, for crying out loud, if you're going to do that.
Yeah.
And how are we ever going to learn? How are we ever going to change as a society if we're giving too much weight to words? And I loved what
Right.
Kids in the Hall said. I loved what they said. And I can't remember which guy exactly. I thought it was Mark McKinney, but I might have gotten their names. He had said that every time you tell us that, every time somebody makes that word like that, and this is being said as a gay man, every time you do that, you're adding weight to the word and you're turning it into a bigger insult. If we decided tomorrow that truck was a bad word and you had to call it the T word, you just added weight to the word truck, which is so arbitrary and ridiculous.
Right.
And by adding weight to these words, my gay friends think it's ridiculous. I think it's ridiculous you can't read Huckleberry Finn in its original. How are we ever going to learn about what it was like at that time? How are we ever going to learn anything? How are we ever going to change? It just angers me.
Or To Kill a Mockingbird, you know?
Oh, To Kill a Mockingbird. There's so much literature you'd have to just trash. And how are we ever supposed to expect people who are gay... I have so many gay friends who think it's ridiculous. Like, if you're making these things, if you're shoving people in the closet in a way by doing that. Mm-hmm. If you make these words a bad word, I don't know.
But I mean, in that Dire Straits case, I mean, he was really, I think, I mean, maybe.
I don't even think he was referring to a gay man.
No, he wasn't at all.
Exactly.
He was poking fun at the guy.
He was poking fun at him, at himself. Really.
Right.
Like he was, you know, I mean, the way guys who were working at a job would think about someone making a living doing what he was doing.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm. I've worked in construction and
he's
I've
like,
heard much worse.
Hey, look at us. We're in a music video.
Well, yeah, kind of. You know, I don't know, but
I think there's so much special interest going on right now, which is
True.
kind of good and kind of bad. But there's so much special interest that one complaint, burlesque in Alberta right now, this one's driving me berserk, especially somebody organizing an event with burlesque. One person makes one complaint and a whole industry gets shut down in the way of burlesque. Burlesque is being shut down right now systematically by the Alberta Liquor and Gaming Board. And you get, music and literature that's being messed with over a word.
It's really ironic though when you consider what is out there for burlesque, which in some ways is almost innocent to get singled out special treatment and being, it seems really silly. I haven't been following it totally, but
watch MTV and you'll see way worse.
Well, yeah.
Good point.
Yeah.
Here, watch some of the television shows on, having that Dire Straits song or having, Huckleberry Finn. Watch television. Listen to rap. You'll hear the N-word all the time. Well, go out and look at some media. And I think we were.
If Mark Knopfler was gay, it probably wouldn't be an issue.
Yeah, but this is the same thing we're talking about here. Like, history is just repeating itself. Van Morrison, his song was censored for far less.
Which song was that?
Offensive. Brown Eyed Girl.
Really? I didn't hear about that.
I think there was just a line about taking her behind the stadium or something, and that.
You kind of love Brown Eyed Girl.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember you couldn't. Oh, there's a hilarious video. You should Google this. It's I think it's from the Lawrence Welk show, and it's these really straight-looking country duo doing a song called "One Toke Over the Line," which is basically about smoking dope. And but they do it totally sincere, totally for real, and it's hysterical. I wish I could remember who it was, but you'll probably find it if you Google "One Toke Over the Line" or punch that into YouTube. You can probably find the video.
Right.
It's definitely worth watching.
Well, the podcast just got a whole bunch more controversial.
I get that way.
That's not
I
a
think
bad
that's
thing.
what you got to do.
Yeah.
You got to just piss some people off.
Don't get me talking about censorship and don't get me talking about arts grants, so you're going to be here a while.
Yeah.
All right. Well, another question. What are your thoughts on social media and social networking? Twitter and Facebook and MySpace, things of that nature?
Well, I'm friends with both of you guys on Facebook.
True.
Woo.
And, I don't know anything about Twitter. And I'm sure there's other ones that I know even less about.
Yeah, there's a bunch more out there now.
MySpace?
Yeah,
I'm on
Reverb Nation.
MySpace. I think it's good. I don't know. I don't really have a theory about it, hopefully it can help you connect with people, right? That's what it's about.
Yeah.
But I think you can also just waste a ridiculous amount of time on it.
That's true.
Have you felt it's helped Prairie of Prax?
Yeah, I think so. Just in terms of letting people know what's going on, and the MySpace kind of tends to grow kind of exponentially. Like once it gets going, you connect with a lot more people. But I mean, I got all these friends, and I have no idea who they are. They just kind of pop up, and it's like they have like all the, you know, I don't have know anything about them, anything in common with them, and it's just kind of weird. Where do they come from? Like, they just send friend requests to every single.
Some people do, yeah.
Girls at your gigs.
Yeah.
No, I don't. I'm talking about MySpace.
MySpace,
I don't know.
yeah.
Oh yeah, MySpace is even more impersonal, for sure.
Oh yeah.
But I don't know. Like I guess some people do that just randomly.
Just get more numbers or whatever, what have you. You can't just add them and then consider them a fan. It doesn't really work that way, but some people seem to think that's how it works.
I don't know. Maybe.
I'm getting so many messages from random MySpace people now that just didn't happen before, and they're like, yeah, go check out our page on Facebook, we moved. And it's like, I don't remember you guys. I mean, you have to connect. If you want to connect with me, you have to connect with me personally.
What are you under on MySpace?
I think just David Andrew Wiebe.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, myspace.com/David Andrew Wiebe.
There's a Mark David Stewart on MySpace.
Yeah.
Who's like a 20-year-old English guy who's into musical theater.
Woo.
I'm not making this up. I thought it was quite funny.
Might confuse a couple people.
Maybe not. I don't know. It's not a super uncommon name, I guess.
I guess. I don't know.
Could be David Jones or.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how has social networking media benefited you? Like what sort of tangible benefits have you seen from it?
Well, I do have more people logging onto my site, which is definitely helpful, and signing up for the newsletter. I think there's a certain amount of awareness that wouldn't be there if not for that. But people that sign up for it are still typically people that I know or have interacted
personally.
with or met with. So,
are you talking about your website, or are you talking about?
I'm pretty much talking. I'm talking about like Facebook and MySpace and how what impact that's had. MySpace occasionally definitely made some personal connections that way. It seems to be becoming a lot more rare though. And I haven't seen friend requests in ages, so clearly that's not happening. But
there's a lot of people are upset about certain changes that have made. I find it difficult to get around now.
It is hard to keep up on the security of it. You know, I have a friend who's a comedian and an actor, and he posted today, I mean, stop adding me to your freaking groups. I'm not interested.
Right.
That's putting it lightly for the podcast. Because, you know, he's a comedian, so people want to add him. They've seen him on TV. They've seen him in movies. They got to add him. And then as soon as they add him, they have to put him in a group. And he's like, I don't know you. I just allowed you to add me because you're a fan. You know? It's driving him nuts.
Right.
Yeah.
I do have to say, though, as somebody who's produced theater, live theater, and I produced a show with the Fringe Festival, and the kind of market Fringe Festival is there's people who travel across the country with it, both patrons, volunteers, and performers. And I did find a huge benefit to Facebook. Facebook was the primary media at the time. There wasn't Twitter yet, but was the primary thing that everybody was looking at, and everybody's researching Calgary Fringe for when Calgary Fringe is coming. I got over a third of my audience from Facebook, if not 2/3, and people from across the country. So we can't discount the connections we can make.
And look how quickly things can be organized and publicized. Or, you know.
True. It is useful for getting people at the shows. And again, it's a method of awareness that wasn't there before. I mean, I think if we didn't have the internet, I'm sure we would have had some other way of getting out our information. But now people are checking their email and their Facebook, so that's where you got to go.
It's strange. It's hard to imagine how the world functioned without the internet.
Exactly.
You know, at this point, like, especially doing sort of journalistic work and music journalism, it would be really hard to do research and things without.
You mean you actually had to connect with people personally?
Well, you have to find out before you interview somebody. You got to at least know a bit about them and you know, have some familiarity with their stuff. And it's almost too easy now to do that. You know,
True.
It is really.
punch them in and check them out. I mean, there's no excuse for doing an interview and not being prepared now, I don't think.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, what would you have done in the past, right? You would have checked out every magazine you could find to see if they were even in there, and
been in the library looking at
library archives. Yeah.
Walking down the street and seeing posters.
I guess maybe
Old-fashioned.
you would have had pre-interview interviews or something like that.
Yeah,
Possibly.
Probably publicists would have had a lot more to do. I don't know.
Cool. What about promotion? What have you had success with? What seems to work for you guys?
You know what works the best is just like telling people, talking it up. And you know, you can go on CJSW, you can go on. There's some stuff on CBC that you can do. But I think that's it. You know, just sort of making connections, however you can, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes things just happen. You don't really know how it happened or what was the driving force.
Yeah, definitely.
And sometimes they don't. Sometimes you can have a show that's really well publicized and you think there's going to be a huge turnout and whatever, for whatever reason, you know, or you end up competing against a really important concert and you're hooped.
Yeah, I would say I've probably even had opportunities because of the podcast. You know, it's not always easy to tell.
Can you track your audience? Do you have a way of? Yeah,
well, there's actually this community that I'm part of, which is the Blueberry Network, and that's I think it's Blueberry without e's, BLUBRRY.com. So you can attach just a short little snippet of code into each of your podcast links, and then it'll track the number of people that have listened to it and unique numbers and all that kind of stuff.
So what's your biggest audience?
I'm not sure if this is totally accurate, simply because it might only track the number of people who have actually listened on my site, as opposed to people who have subscribed to the podcast. But probably like 18 to 20 listeners.
So don't knock those 18 people.
Well, no, certainly not. Feel free to write in. Let us know what you think. But,
I'll tell everyone on my MySpace page
to there you go.
Tune in.
Send out a bulletin. No, send a personal message to all of them.
Yeah.
That is actually something that Prairie of Prax seems to do well, is personal connections. I heard about you guys through Carissa. What's her last name?
Carissa Dewitt, or Warner.
Warner, yeah.
Warner.
And you know, a lot of what she had to say wasn't just about the music, but you as a person. And I enjoyed working with you guys, and I know other people at the event really enjoyed working with you guys last year. You guys seem to be very good at connecting and building relationships.
For sure.
I thank you. Yeah, it's fun. It's nice to work with people. That's the best thing I think about playing music is, I think there's a smaller proportion of a-holes playing music than in just sort of a general cross section of people, right? It seems like I met so many great people that I just really like. Even if we weren't playing music, I would like to hang out with them, and it just seems like, that's the great sort of side benefit.
Well, I think that's all the questions I have. How about you, Angie?
I'm sitting. This is a red couch too. I should.
It is the
crimson,
red flame
crimson
couch. Red flame crimson.
It's comfortable,
couch.
though, eh?
Yeah, no, it's a really nice little.
It sucks you in, eh?
Yeah.
Really, and I just sort of sit here and.
That one hasn't been used quite as much as the main couch, so it's still really, really comfy. The main couch is still nice. Don't get me wrong, but
I like this couch.
We have that so our clients can come in and get comfortable and listen to the mix that they just recorded. And
the only thing I would really like, I could be putting Mark on the spot. If you want to play something, that'd be cool. If you prefer us to play something from the CD, that'd be cool too. There is a shiny red guitar sitting right next to you.
What could I play?
Drunk at the hotel bar at the end of a trying day. Already parked the car, took my keys away, and the floor begins to spin now as the thin line starts to sway. We've been talking for over an hour, my eyes they have wandered. The unspoken language between us has grown ever stronger. this thing goes any further, there's something I probably ought to say. I'm so happily married, I'm practically gay. I'm so happily married, I'm practically gay. I take another drink as I think of dear old Dad, who swore that he longed for the days when the word meant happy or glad. And the irony isn't lost on me, Mr. Average Family Man. Got a snapshot of my son and daughter right here in my wallet sleeve. Bright shiny faces, I promised I'd never leave. Staring up at me in black and white and certain shades of gray. I'm so happily married, I'm practically gay. I'm so happily married, I'm practically gay. So scan your tattoo and email it to me. I'll hide it in my hard drive where nobody can see, with the promises we give away and the secrets that we keep. One more bourbon and coke till I stumble alone to my hotel room, number 226 at the Holiday Inn here in Saskatoon. From now till the dawn of the great deluge, when we all get washed away. I'm so happily married, I'm practically gay. I'm so happily married, I'm practically gay.
Yeah, thanks a lot. That sounded great.
Thank you.
Definitely works acoustically.
I love the sound on that.
Yeah.
I love the story too. I'm good.
Yeah, it's a beginning, middle, and an end kind of thing.
This podcast is a part of the Blueberry Network. You can find this and other great podcasts at blueberry.com. That's blueberry with no e's.com.
And we're back with today's closing segment. So I guess what I've decided I wanted to talk about is the Calgary police. Interestingly enough. On the whole, I am a law-abiding citizen, and I do my very best, my due diligence in trying to keep and uphold the law. For the most part, that's what I believe in doing. Partly that is my spiritual and, well, not religious, but my spiritual upholding, and as well as I just see it as my duty as a citizen of a particular city or country. However, and I don't advise this, I did not have my registration for my license plate.
Uh-oh. Dun, dun, dun.
So I was waiting on some late checks that weren't coming in.
Pay your musicians, people. Pay your musicians.
Doing my very best to take on as much work as I could. More students, more workshops, this and that, whatever I could. And here I am, and I don't have the $70 that I need to go and register. Well,
Dun, dun, dun.
I'm driving down the Deerfoot, and we're putting along at like 10 or 20. So you have to understand, I did nothing to provoke this, but there is a ghost car behind me, and I'm caught unawares. And I'm stuck in a ton of traffic. So
Dun, dun, dun.
If I wasn't there at this exact moment, at this exact time, this wouldn't have even happened.
With that exact cop.
Yes, exactly.
And why did you clean the dirt off your license plate, David?
I didn't. It wouldn't have been visible. But because we were probably going 10, 20 kilometers an hour, that maybe caused him to check or look. So, yeah, sure enough, he pulls me over and, he doesn't give me the choice or the chance of presenting my registration with 24 hours or anything like that. He just says, yeah, that's why I pulled you over, which I understand why he pulled me over. Don't get me wrong. But then he proceeded to lecture me about, I should impound your car. I can impound your car. And, this is not a joke. This is not funny. And I was like, do you see? I'm thinking in my head, do you see me laughing? Because I certainly wasn't. But my point here is that, well, I should tell one more thing before I get to my point. I did get to the registration office, and I did register my vehicle. And so, please, everybody out there, like I said, I don't advise doing this. You should register your vehicle.
Please follow the laws.
Yes, your applicable laws in your applicable province and state and country.
We have international listeners?
Possibly. I don't know yet, but we'll see. If you are an international listener, please write in.
That would be awesome.
Absolutely. So send us an email. comments@daw-music.com. Anyway, I did get my sticker, and I got it put on. My boss over at Kick-Axe Guitars advised me, yeah, you know what? You should clean it. Today's a nicer day. I mean, I know it's kind of messy out there because the snow is melting and all that kind of stuff. So there's lots of mud and everything. But he's like, today's a warm day, so why don't you go out and do that? And I was like, okay, you know what? I have some time before my student. I'm going to go out and do that now. Cleaned it off. Got my sticker on, all that stuff. But what I wanted to say was at the registration office, I was carrying, they always ask you to present your insurance as well. So I was carrying my insurance with me, and they looked at it and went, well, you shouldn't carry this many insurance cards with you. You could get ticketed for that. And I was like, are you kidding? And I mean, fortunately I wasn't, and thank you for warning me, but that seems like a really ridiculous thing to be ticketed for.
Oy.
For just having like 2 or 3 extra insurance cards from months past. And I think I get my new ones biannually or annually, so it's not like I'm cleaning it out all the time. But I just thought, like, police don't have much better to do in Calgary than to be stopping.
There's this big crack problem supposedly in this city. Like, we're apparently big crack city now. It's on the cover of the paper.
Well, and so this is what I don't understand is I'm seeing cops patrolling like in greater volumes than I've ever seen in this city, patrolling the roads, looking for people who are going 5 kilometers over the speed limit or have failed to get their registration like me.
I had an experience with this on Tuesday. I wasn't pulled over, but I'm sitting there at lunch talking to one of the girls, and she's like, this cop tailgated me, and he was so tight I finally sped up a little because I was afraid he'd hit me.
Yeah.
And then he ticketed me. Well, there I am on Tuesday going down Bow Trail. This cop was so hard on the back of my boss. I drive my boss's car to do errands for work. He prefers that we don't have to expense our vehicles. And he was so close to me, I could not see I could barely see the lights on the roof of the squad car.
Right.
In my rearview mirror. Like, how close do you have to be? So, I slowed down because that's what I was taught in defensive driving. You slow down, you increase your following distance in case you have to stop quickly. It gives the guy behind you a minute to react.
Right.
But seriously, do we have to follow this close? Why are we trying to create a traffic offense? Is that not more dangerous? I wish I could see the numbers on his squad car because I honestly would have reported that.
Exactly.
I have been stopped at a bus stop, had to turn over my ID, etc., while sitting there with a Bible after teaching youth group. I've had the light on me and everything, had to go stay at a friend's house because they kept me from getting on the last bus for being in Ogden at a late hour. I'm volunteering with youth. I'm trying to keep them off of drugs and off the street, and or at that time in my life, that's what I was involved with. And, it really sucks to be treated that way. I will say that the police service was very gracious in giving an apology after that. But sometimes, I've been stopped on my bike at a late hour, biking home. It's not like I'm drunk or anything. You don't need to automatically treat us with suspicion. We realize you've got a job to do. We realize that there are bad people out there. We so appreciate the work our police do to keep us safe.
Definitely.
And the paramedics and firefighters. But there is a point where you're almost creating a problem. You're creating a mistrust with the police force. We really want to have confidence in you. Please, please, please give us that.
Yeah, and I mean, this kind of even goes back to what we were saying with the TSA. Like, we definitely don't want to make it sound like we don't appreciate the police and what they do, because we do. We just want to know that you're...
Absolutely. I had someone try to break into my house a few months ago, and the police were there. How wonderful is it that we live in a society where the police are there and they will deal with some shaking 28-year-old who's freaking out, feeling silly. The police will still take the time to be there for you.
Right. This reminds me of a time I went on to a mission trip, and we went to Mexico, and just the way things turned out, I don't think it's anybody's fault, but pretty much all of us had not showered. Like, the most we had maybe showered was at a public swimming pool or at the beach or something, but even
you stink,
then...
man.
Well, exactly, right? So after, I don't think it's a week, it was more like 2 weeks, because we actually spent some time in the States. We had a mission trip and then a vacation directly after it. So we were coming back, and we're at the airport, and my sister and I are in the line, and there's basically just to get our bags checked before we exit out. We're in the one line, and there's clearly another line that's something different. And we're just standing in the other line, hoping that we're going to get through. They'll check our bags. We'll get through. No, we get put into the special line. At this point, we're going, oh, great. This is going to be good. And so we were a little concerned at this point that they were going to pull out the rubber gloves or something, because we know we're in the special line now. And my sister's starting to freak out a little bit. I'm like, just calm down, because that's not going to make it any better.
No.
Probably because we were smelling a little bit funny. They had to pull us over or whatever. So they go through our bags for a moment, and then they say, Bibles. And then they go, oh. The lady just looks at us and goes, like, with this apologetic look, and you could tell what she was thinking was, you idiots, you found the wrong guys again.
I have to say, I used to do missions work in the U.S., and sometimes border security is going after the wrong people.
Yeah.
I hate to say I'm one of those people who supports profiling. I've had an immigration guard decide that I was trying to marry Americans and try to illegally migrate. I've had people say I was illegally trying to smuggle an alien into the U.S. because I was traveling with a friend of mine who's South African but ethnically Chinese. Because we were both going down to work. I was on a bus where they tried to pull off the one Chinese kid because they were certain he was an illegal migrant, and left the guy who actually was adopted from, I think, Ecuador or something like that. Which you'd think, being the U.S., sometimes you got to lay off. And in the paper today, there's a woman who's suing for sexual assault.
Right.
I'm not going to go into details. It's pretty horrid. She was unlawfully, or it sounds unlawfully, strip searched for having raspberries with her, and inappropriately sexually assaulted, essentially, by another female guard. And the guard refused her entry into the U.S. for trying to illegally migrate.
Right.
I mean, forgive me, there's so many Canadians who go down just to visit or shop. I think, honestly, a little profiling would not be a bad thing, Right. If somebody's going to try to do something bad, they're going to show it in their face. They're going to show it in what they say. I think they need to be asking some better questions. I got in trouble for going down to 2 funerals. I had 2 American friends pass away in 2 days, went down for their funerals, and one was a memorial, one was a funeral, and apparently I'm not allowed to have American friends. You know, they made me cry before the lady behind me in line was like, maybe you should calm down, she's going to a funeral. And then the guard yelled at this little old lady for sticking up for me.
Wow.
There's kind of a point where you've got to lay off and look for the real problem. And I think sometimes we're so busy, or not us, but sometimes we've got these security people in place who are so busy freaking out on the little things that the big things are just going to walk right through.
And I mean, the point of police and security is that they're there to protect and to serve, right? Like, I don't know if that's the mantra of Calgary police or what have you, but I think that's the basic reasoning that they exist. And I just want to know that our police are actually there for that purpose and not for some other kind of underhanded, you know.
As for, you know, texting and distracted driving, get on that.
Absolutely.
You know, we're
be on my
tailgating
case
people.
if I am texting while driving.
We are tailgating. Yeah, Dave. Sorry.
Which I don't.
But I've seen you.
I did it before.
Yes. You need to put the phone down.
Absolutely.
I love my friends. I don't want to hear anything happen.
No.
It's, you know, I've been in 4 accidents as a passenger. 3 of them are attributed probably to weather and road conditions and driver inexperience.
Yeah.
My first accident and the worst one, and I live in pain every day from it, was somebody on their cell phone who was still on their cell phone when they got out to see if we were okay and said, I'm going to have to let you go, I'm on a phone. Or I've been in an accident, pardon me.
Wow.
You know, I honest to God, think that cell phones, you know, if you've been in an accident, they should check your cell phone log automatically. I think it should be right up there with drunk driving. Honest to goodness. Somebody told me the other day it's not as bad because your judgment isn't impaired. Your judgment's impaired. Many people think that they can drive while texting. That is an impairment.
Not while texting, no.
No, you cannot. And honestly, they've done studies that you don't react as well, even if you're talking on a Bluetooth.
Right.
Yeah, it's cheesy because it's Oprah, but she had a no phone zone pledge. If I'm in the car, my phone is in my purse where I cannot get it out while I'm driving. I encourage every single one of our listeners to do it. And Dave, I challenge you to sign the pledge.
Right.
I've got it. No texting. I've signed the no texting or talking. I do believe there's a Bluetooth option if you really got to talk while you're in the phone. But I do challenge every one of our listeners to make that pledge. Put your phone in your trunk. It is not worth the 3 seconds. It is not worth it. And I hope they nail people. I know that sounds bad. And in Toronto, 1 year after enacting the law, they got 211 people on one day texting. People were really good right after the law came in, but they forgot. We used to think seatbelts were foolish. You wouldn't think about getting in a car without a seatbelt now. It's the same thing with a cell phone.
Now, the one thing is, like, I think there should be a better system, but there are certain occupations that would require one to be on the phone constantly, like a realtor, for example. So I'm not saying to make...
Pull over.
Well,
it's not worth it. It's not worth your client listening to you die. Forgive me. Pull
That's for
over
sure.
for 3 seconds. I've seen some scary things. I take transit a lot. I've often had to jump behind the shelter because I'm afraid.
Right.
There was a little boy the other day waiting with us, and I thought, like heck, he was going to get hit by this guy texting because the guy was swerving all over the place. It is not safe. Sometimes when you're messing with the radio, I honestly don't mess with the radio or anything I'm unfamiliar with unless I'm at a red light because it's distracting. You know, you can sit and say I'm a stupid woman driver or whatever. I don't care. I know what it's like to live with pain every day because somebody made that judgment call.
Yeah. And the other thing that I wanted to say was... these are pretty personal in nature, so I'm not going to get into the exact details, but there have been some potentially volatile situations I've been in this last year in which also involved the police, in which I was pretty disappointed that they did not do more. And if they truly are there to protect and serve, I think if it's noticeably by everybody that it's a volatile situation, even I felt not completely safe, even though I was in the presence of police officers, that they should just be aware that there are some situations where it's maybe advisable and even good if they took a little more action.
Yes, I think I know some of what you're discussing, and I've been in some of those situations myself.
Exactly.
Dave, did you write the police service in this case? I have to ask because anytime I've gotten a response, and, maybe it's somebody just putting pen to paper and we don't know how much that person on the other end cares. But sometimes, making a phone call, writing a well-worded email, sometimes, it makes a huge difference and can make someone think.
Yeah, that's maybe a good idea and a good consideration for the future. But that's basically my take on the police service and everything. Again, we do appreciate all the work that goes into that, and I know that not the easiest job out there, that's for sure.
It's not every day that somebody goes into a job where they don't know if they're going to come home that night.
Yeah, exactly.
Our soldiers, our police, our firefighters, even our paramedics go into these situations, and we need to thank them any way we can.
Yeah, I guess in a sense this is more of a tribute than anything.
Sorry, you know me.
It's all good.
Yeah.
Any final comments before we wrap this up?
Go out and listen to some live music. I've been to some great shows lately.
Mm-hmm.
There is some great stuff out there right now. This is a great city. Get out there. Go support your local musicians.
Yeah, we definitely encourage you to see live music no matter what part of the world you are.
If you're not in Calgary, if you're stuck in Edmonton, I'm so sorry,
We do largely cover a lot of what happens here in Calgary, but...
So you guys had a rough hockey game tonight, too.
Yeah, well, so did Calgary.
I know. They had a rough hockey game. Theirs turned into a brawl.
Wow.
Ours was just a overtime disappointment.
Yeah, let's put it this way. It wasn't rough so much as just lack of defense in the third period.
Anytime a goal was scored, it was like, where's the defense?
We could have won 4-3, and it ended up losing, 5-4?
There was a penalty. We did have a hooking penalty that they scored on, and then I saw the highlights from the Oilers-Penguin game, and it just kept dissolving into a brawl, and you gotta feel for the Oilers and the Penguins fans on that game.
The Oilers haven't been doing very good this season at all.
No.
Hopefully Calgary still makes the playoffs.
I like my playoffs.
Yeah, I rather enjoy seeing Calgary in the playoffs, and it has been a few years since we've seen them make it past first round, so it would be...
You got to admit, that is one of the few times, and especially in 2007, if we're going to talk community, where people just get together and there's a bit of a peace and love thing. I mean, the raise your shirt thing. Come on, guys, be a little more classy than trying to trap girls with hockey sticks. I've never been so embarrassed in my life.
Wow.
No, I'm not raising my shirt because you got a frickin' hockey stick, pardon me. But save for that incident, honest to God, really great people coming together. Even when the guys didn't win in that last game, everybody, I was one of the people at the airport welcoming them back like heroes. Right. People were at, Olympic Plaza welcoming them back like heroes. You've got to admit, when we play playoff hockey, Calgary comes together.
Yeah, it was such a great experience to see them make it all the way to the finals that one year, and we definitely...
Come on, guys, we love you, man.
We hope to see that again. In fact, we hope to see you win the whole thing.
Oh, yeah. We need one. It's been since 88. Come on, guys.
Let's do it.
This.
Let's do it. Well, thanks so much for tuning in today, and we will see you in the next episode, which we will either wrap up our interview with our very own Angie Robertson,
Woo-hoo.
Or the interview that I did with Ben Perrin from the Acapella Fellas.
Woo-woo, Acapella Fellas.
Yeah, and that was a cool little interview too, and I don't mind talking about that, but that's another episode for another time.
All right.
So thanks for tuning in.
Thank you.
We could get our hair done, maybe go for a pedicure, catch up on the latest scandals while we're baking underneath the dryers. Cosmopolitan opened up on my knee while the mud cakes on my face. Still I can't help thinking I don't fit in, and I can't stop thinking I just can't win. And this isn't quite what I expected when I signed up.
You've been listening to the David Angie Interviews and Music Business Podcast, broadcasting from Calgary, Alberta, Canada.
This has been a Red Flame production. To learn more about Red Flame, go to redflamerecords.com.